So if you subscribed to my channel this year, you might remember me making some videos on the Cybertruck. Now, when I made videos on them, I was largely like making fun of how bad they were. We just had them just generally braking, but there were some very dangerous things going on, like the pedal, and you guys might remember this video, the pedal covering would slide off and wedge the accelerator to the floor. And this could happen at basically any moment. And the only way you could basically stop it, I think even like turning the engine off.
Let me show you something interesting about my Cybertruck is that pedal looks different, right? It's missing this. So a couple days ago I'm driving and let me see if I can get a good view here. I'm driving and this goes here. As I'm driving, this slid up and wedged itself just like that. Right now it's not clipped on, so it's kind of hard to see, but this wedged itself right there. And as you can see, based on the design of the floorboard, this sliding up, and the way this was still hooked onto the pedal, it held the accelerator down 100%.
Super dangerous. And there's been numerous like Cybertruck crashes. But what's been happening lately is there's been Cybertruck crashes that have resulted in fatalities that actually kind of follow the same pattern. And I was actually just like researching this video and I found an article from just over a year ago talking about like how dangerous a Cybertruck could potentially be and how like it hasn't really passed safety checks. But that's obviously by design, it's the American system, and a lot of cars don't actually have to pass these safety checks. And I want to talk about this today in like the broader conversation of car regulation in the US, because as you guys might know, the Cybertruck isn't allowed in most European countries. I think recently there was a story about a guy who like drove it from Europe and it has like Albanian plates, but like that's like a loophole he got through so he can drive it, but you can't buy it here. You can't drive it with a British license with, you know, British number plates. So that's for a variety of reasons, because of our road safety and just the, you know, height and weight of cars that are actually allowed in the UK. But the US does not have this same regulation, and actually the mega truck like trend and just sales of cars is absolutely booming in America, but they also increasingly cause more fatalities to mainly pedestrians. And I want to talk about just like all of that today in relation to these like more fatal crashes that have been happening. And at this point, talking about the Cybertruck has been fun, but at the same time, if this keeps happening more and more, Elon Musk literally got Trump elected and now has his ear in the government. If it is found, and I think it's being investigated now, that the Cybertruck has significant flaws that are causing fatalities, do you think Tesla's going to be regulated by the government? I'm going to guess that it's not. But before we go any further, I haven't shouted this out in a long time. Please follow me on social media, Blue Sky, and also check out my Patreon if you want to support my work. Thanks for all the support this year, by the way. And yeah, let's get into the rest of the video. So I mentioned that article that I was reading, and this is from a year ago by David Zipper, and it's called "We're About to Find Out How Dangerous the Cybertruck Really Is." And I just wanted to mention a couple things from this article because it actually is relevant to what's been happening recently. Now, a lot of the article focuses on its design, and we spoke about this, and obviously that's dangerous, and you can imagine how that will cause like more fatalities and how that could injure pedestrians even more. But there haven't been loads of accidents involving pedestrians. But the article says, at the moment, little is definitively known about how dangerous a Cybertruck is. The federal government has not shared safety ratings, nor has the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, which conducts its own crash tests. So talking about things more relevant to the thing I want to talk about today, talks about the weight being 6,800 pounds, which weighs more than 2 Honda Accords. Heavier cars convey more force in a crash, and they cover more distance before coming to a halt. The Cybertruck's power is another concern. Last month, Tesla claimed that the high-end Cyberbeast version will go from 0 to 60 in 2.6 seconds. Such pickup is comparable to a Formula One race car and well beyond the needless acceleration already offered by competitors like the Ford F-105 Lightning that can go from 0 to 60 in under 4 seconds. Although such power presents obvious risks to other street users who lack time to get out of the way, its practical value is also dubious. Now we get to the crazy part. Even if alarmed federal auto regulators wanted to pause or slow the Cybertruck's rollout, they probably can't. I don't know of anything that the NHTSA can do within its legal framework to prevent something like the Cybertruck launch. So this is the important part about why just American car safety is so garbage in the first place, but in regards to the Cybertruck, the reason relates to self-certification, a foundation principle of American vehicle regulation. Self-certification works pretty much as it sounds. Automakers are free to design and sell whatever they like as long as they can certify that each car adheres to the encyclopedic Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards. This sets design standards for specific elements like seatbelts and steering wheels, but it contains massive omissions. Nothing in it references pedestrian safety or maximum acceleration. Two things, of course, the Cybertruck seems particularly terrible for. Needlessly quick, and also its design seems to just want to hurt pedestrians. So as long as car makers like Tesla do not expressly violate this, they are free to use whatever designs and features they like in the US. Elon Musk has said that the Cybertruck had passed all of the regulatory tests, but no such tests are required or even available from the federal government prior to the launch of a new vehicle. Tesla just needs to give itself the go-ahead. If these compliant vehicles seem dangerous, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration can only intervene after launching an investigation that identifies a pattern of related incidences. So remember this, NHTSA has recall authority, but they have to wait until something happens before they can take action. In the meantime, the faulty vehicles are on the road, endangering everyone. So of course, that just sounds like absolutely fucking insane that you can just make any car and self-certify it. Now, of course, you do have the elements that, if you are a car company that keeps self-certifying and your cars get investigated and recalled, then obviously no one's going to trust the brand. But also we've seen with the Cybertruck already, it does have loads of faults that are very dangerous, and Tesla has done its own recalls, but the government is not stepping in to regulate it yet. But it is starting to investigate it. Seems like it's a little bit too late as this car is just spreading all across America, and it's just a reflection of a wider problem that capitalism in America allows obviously most industries to buy the government, so they're not going to be regulated properly and they're not going to be regulated out of maximizing profit. And when the head of Tesla is now basically part of the US government, is there going to be more car regulations under the Trump administration? Is there going to be sanctions on Tesla? Are the Cybertrucks going to be pulled off the street by the government? I highly doubt it. And, as I said, they are investigating now because there've been fatalities that have a similar pattern. So back in August, this came out, the first Tesla Cybertruck fatality. A Cybertruck driver died in Texas early Monday morning after their truck left the roadway for an unknown reason and smashed into concrete. The local news station reports the Cybertruck became engulfed in flames after the crash, complicating the victim's identification. So that is in August, and then recently this happened. Another deadly crash shows Tesla Cybertruck is not very good at keeping passengers alive. So remember the first one, it's a crash where the driver goes off the road and steers into concrete and then gets engulfed in flames. Here's another one. So the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration is investigating a Tesla Cybertruck crash in Piedmont, California that killed 3 people and injured a 4th, and it's the second Cybertruck crash that has resulted in a deadly fire. So this one occurred on Wednesday, unfortunately claiming the lives of 3 passengers in the truck, and a 4th was saved from the wreckage, but he was severely injured. According to the San Francisco Chronicle, all 4 of the occupants were sophomores in college. While the cause of the crash is still under investigation, the police department says the electric pickup truck was likely speeding when it hit a curb. From then, it was projected into a cement wall and got stuck between a wall and a tree, bursting into flames. So the crash has also caught the attention of the big guns at the NHTSA. The agency confirmed it's gathering information from the manufacturer and law enforcement, and it investigates crashes involving vehicles with self-driving features, and the Cybertruck is one such vehicle. It's unclear whether the Cybertruck was driving with the driver assistance features enabled at the time of the crash though. and Tesla recently rolled it out, and other driver assistance features to the Cybertruck. So that is something I didn't speak about so far on this video, but I did actually make a whole other video about the self-driving a couple months ago. And it seems like an absolutely insane thing to have for this car. And as you saw in my other video, it can work well to some extent, and there are examples of it working well.
It's still, I'm off the controls now. I'm also going to be impressed if it passes this bicyclist again.
It's picking up.
Okay, the bicyclist has signaled me. He said that, thank you. She said that go around him. You know what? My last 12 years of off-road experience just went out the window. The truck will now, well, we're not at the hardest parts yet. Let's slow down. Let's slow down. Do you see this? Oh, wow.
Wow.
It made that turn.
Look.
But there are also examples of it trying to drive into oncoming traffic.
Here's my visibility. I can see it. It's wide open, so it should just go. Perfect. Ooh, it did it. You see that? Okay.
It's hopefully it reads all this traffic or not. Oh, shit.
Dude.
Sorry.
That's not how it's supposed to work.
Nope.
Whoa. You almost ran into that truck.
We got a green light. Car's waiting a little bit. And beautiful. Oh! Not so beautiful.
And in this case, I don't think that crash was probably caused by self-driving, because what you see with a lot of the self-driving errors, even with the Cybertruck, is it's not about speed, it's just about where it goes, and it normally goes into oncoming traffic or will pull out into oncoming traffic. So I don't think it's that. I think it's more like the other person probably losing control of a car that can go that fast. And it seems like this car is both not designed to keep pedestrians safe from it, and also not designed to preserve the life of people crashing in it. If two cases in about 5 months of each other have the same outcome, where they crash into concrete and the car basically goes on fire and kills most of the people inside. So it's good that they are trying to investigate it now and see if there is a problem. But as we've seen, there are well-documented problems that go far beyond the self-driving, stuff to do with like the accelerator pedal. Could that have happened here? Could have it got stuck and just went crazy and smashed into a wall? Potentially. Could it have been a glitch with the steering system? Could it have been a glitch with the OS? And we've seen that where it can like lock the steering just randomly, but you keep going at speed and these people might panic. So yeah, it seems like a really dangerous car, but at the moment, while that article originally said it was going to be mostly dangerous to pedestrians, it seems like it's mostly dangerous to the people driving it itself. And in this context, self-certification seems like so absolutely insane when it's driven by like an absolute egomaniac and a guy who hates regulation in Elon Musk. So you're just getting these dangerous cars like roaming the streets and just, in my opinion, being like a time bomb. And it's good, in my opinion, these cars aren't anywhere in Europe. Now, you guys might be asking yourselves, like, what is being done at the moment to stop these mega cars from being everywhere? Is there any regulation incoming? Is there just anything coming to stop this crazy trend of more Americans buying cars like the Cybertruck, which can be so lethal to pedestrians? You might be a little bit disappointed, but I do have a couple other articles to outline this. And here's just some statistics I read from an article called Why Regulators Aren't Taming the US Megacar Crisis by Kia Wilson. And it says, today megacars account for a staggering 75.9% of new car sales. That's up from 53% just 8 years ago, and that's expected to grow despite the fact that people on foot are up to 3 times more likely to be killed when struck by the drivers of such vehicles. The megacar boom is widely acknowledged to be a primary driver of the US pedestrian death crisis, but it's also killing other motorists. The drivers of smaller cars are 158% more likely to be killed by pickup truck drivers in the event of a collision, and 28% more likely if they're struck by someone behind the wheel of an SUV. Despite the mountain of evidence that today's most popular cars are too dangerous for anyone outside the vehicle, the Federal Department of Transportation has long been hesitant to regulate them, and in particular to set limits on how tall, heavy, or aggressively designed the front end of a light truck can legally be. So it seems like with many things in America, from food to cars, where's the regulation? Why is the regulation not coming? There's one answer. Money. Money. It's the car manufacturers bribing the government and putting pressure on the government not to regulate them because, yeah, it's going to get in the way of profits. It's going to get in the way of self-regulation by the car industry. And it's going to hurt the increasing sales of these absolutely insane mega trucks across America, which are so lethal to pedestrians. But does the American government care about the American people, or does it care about corporations that make cars? Like, you know, we know the answer to that. But I did read an interesting article also about, you know, people trying to tackle this. So Bike Portland, Jonathan Mouse wrote, "The days of mega trucks and supersized SUVs are numbered." I don't think this, but it was an interesting article. So New York Assembly member Zoran K. Mamdani, who represents District 36, was on a panel titled Supersized SUVs, Megatrucks and Regulatory Failure. Mamdani is frustrated by federal inaction and has introduced a bill that would tax vehicles based on weight. He wants to de-incentive the purchase of vehicles that have a direct link to the higher likelihood of killing children and people on the streets. It's up to us to make it clear to New Yorkers when they purchase a vehicle of a certain size and a certain weight that it comes with an additional cost, and that cost should be a fiscal cost, not just a moral cost. He goes on to say, what we have is an industry that is almost entirely unregulated, that is pushing larger and larger vehicles, tying into the notions of masculinity. Vehicles that can't even fit inside parking spots, and yet for some reason, they will continue to be allowed to be sold. The state has a role in incentivizing the way in which the market acts. If the state puts additional costs on certain sizes of vehicles, then I think it creates an opening for there to be smaller vehicles. I believe if there's a clash between the market and the state can and should win. You must try and influence the market itself because the market is driven only by profit, and it is a sad fact that you can make a lot of money making cars that kill people. And so we cannot hope that they change, we have to force them to do so. The article just goes on to say, you don't need a policy background to support more regulation. Jessica Hart said, I am here because I don't like big vehicles. I think they are horrible, deadly, and unnecessary. And she lost her 5-year-old daughter Alice, who was killed in 2021 by the driver of a large van while biking in a crosswalk. The thing with regulations is a lot of regulations are paid for in blood, and it's obviously terrible what happened to that woman's daughter, but that's why speed limits are lowered. Like in the UK right now in London, a lot of the speed limits have been reduced to 20. People get really mad about this. I don't think it's such a bad thing, because the likelihood of you basically killing someone going 20 miles an hour is way reduced, especially because you might have time to hit the brakes, reducing it even further compared to something like 30. And obviously we know, and if you drive on the roads, you know, most people do not stick to the speed limits. And that as well, we know when the speed limit was 30, a lot of people go 35, 36, 37. So even with that, if people are going 25, 26, 27, that's still a net positive, because even though people aren't sticking to this new speed limits, they're not going to be going like 35, 36 in a 20, right? So those things are all good. But again, with a lot of these things, it's paid for in blood, and then the government has to make the decision, do we give in to the lobby groups influencing the policy, and many capitalist governments do this, or do we do something for the people to protect them? And sadly in America, more than most countries, it's almost the corporations who get the favour, despite the fact that they will make profit of killing people through these massive cars. It doesn't actually matter. And of course, as well, with American car culture, public transport is generally pretty rubbish. The whole of like the suburbs is designed around everyone driving. There's actually like no incentive for the government to regulate things if they are in bed with these lobby groups. And also what that New York council member was saying, I even disagree with that, because if you're talking about like making these cars more expensive, the Cybertruck costs like $100,000. So if you're putting, let's say, like a 10% tax on that because it's heavier or whatever like that, let's say it's up 10% based on its weight, these people are still going to buy it, because it doesn't matter. If you're dropping 100 grand on a car, whether that be on finance or you just have the means to drop 100 grand on a car, I don't think an extra 10, 20 or even 30 grand is probably going to make much of a difference to these people. They'll still buy it. The people who are buying these cars won't be turned off by a simple tax. And again, what I feel like they should do is, like most of the European Union and the UK, ban cars these size for multiple reasons. But again, even if they investigate Tesla and find that there's something they've done wrong that makes these cars more flammable in a crash, again, Elon Musk is going to be in charge of stuff in the government soon. They're not going to regulate this. And they're going to continue not to regulate this. And when I talk about America, but just general capitalist countries like the UK, it's just like so much shit is ruined by capitalism, like privatizing public services, privatizing water and then dumping sewage into rivers. And you're just like, this makes so much sense to not privatize these things, to not do things just like purely for profit incentive, because that benefits no one but a group of shareholders. But that is just capitalism for you. Nothing is done in the public good. So that is it for the video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. And if you made it this far, thank you for watching.